Well, hello there, everybody, and thanks so much for joining us for another edition of Running a Holistic Office. I appreciate everybody for tuning in today. And if you are on LinkedIn, I would love it if you would connect with me. And who is me? Who is I? I'm Kristen Ford. I am the CEO of Holistic Office. I produce tools for independent practitioners to use in their office management. So I have a great EHR and would love to tell you more about it if you're all interested. So anyways, love it if you connect with me on LinkedIn, and we'll just wait just a minute more here until someone else, decides to join us. And then we will get started. Today, we are going to be talking about that it is the middle of the month, and are you reviewing your financials? And we'll take a few extra minutes to talk about everybody's or nobody's favorite topic, budgets. Yay. All right. So why don't we go ahead and get started? So what I'd really like to know is this you? Are you not sure about what your revenue was last month? How much you sold for services, how much you sold for products, all that good stuff? You can't really identify your expenses. You kind of looking around going, where did I spend that dollar? Not sure. Not sure if you're on budget or not. Spend a lot of time on a budget, but you're like, I don't know, maybe next month. Or maybe you just don't have a budget. I get it. Budgets aren't fun. Well, if any of these things are you, if any of these attributes are yours, then this is the show for you. Every month, we're going to start talking about our financials because we should be reviewing them every month. And we'll have a few tips and tricks that you can use to make sure that you are always managing your practice and not letting your practice manage you. All right. So let's get started. We're going to be covering today the best reports for you to review monthly, why they are important, a few tips for planning a budget, and then we're going to check in with our favorite CCO and get a few reminders of the best way to be a great companion. All right, so let's get started. So some of the best reports to review. Some of these are going to sound familiar. Most of you know what a profit and loss statement is. And I like to say it's by month because I like to see what's going on monthly. And other people call it an operating statement, but these are essentially, your revenue and expenses. Another great report you should be reviewing every month is your balance sheet, your budget to your actuals, and your actuals being your profit and loss statement, and also your accounts receivable and your accounts payable. And I know some of you are going to be cash practices and you won't have a lot of accounts receivable, and that's fine. For others who maybe, have insurance or they allow patients to pay over time, your accounts receivable is pretty important to review every month as well. So our first report here is our profit and loss statement. As I mentioned earlier, this is everybody's favorite, right? This is all the money you're making and all the expenses, all the money that's going out the door. So it's your revenue and your expenses. We talked a little bit last week about your chart of accounts, and that each one of the different charts of your accounts are numbered. So your profit and loss, they show all of your accounts that start with a 4 and a 5. And for any of you that have been to some of these conferences and someone comes up to you and goes, so, what's your contribution margin? This is where we calculate that as well. And we can find that and add it to your profit and loss statement. And this is also where you show which your either your income, and I'm hoping it's always positive, or your losses for the month are. And sometimes that happens too. So we want to review this every month. This is kind of the heart of your practice, and helps you to determine, whether you should be increasing your sales or cutting back on expenditures. And it's just something you should be reviewing every month. I'm going to show you a little example of kind of what that looks like here. So this here, I kind of made this a little bit bigger. So this profit and loss here, this is, shows some revenue, right? So, and I kind of broke this down into some different ways to view this. So you have your services and then your products, and you can divide that by your service types, your product types. And then on the profit and loss, we go into our expenses. They always start with a 5. And we start with our cost of goods. And people always ask, well, what's the cost of goods? So anything that you use to actually make your product. So let's say you sell supplements, right? So your cost of goods is going to be your wholesale cost of your supplements. If you provide services, it could be, the doctor's services or anybody you bring in to perform those services. Maybe that's their labor costs. Okay. And then the rest of these, and oh, look at that. This isn't right. Ooh, so these should all be 5,000s also. There are no 6s here. Ooh, error on my part. I take responsibility. These are all of your expenses, okay? And that's your automobile expenses, your insurance, your marketing, all that kind of good stuff. So we're going to fix that for sure. All right, let's move on to our next report. So we also have a balance sheet. And the balance sheet is where all of your assets and your liabilities and your equity is reported every month. And those numbers accounts are anything that starts with a 1 and a 2 and a 3. Okay, so 1 being assets, 2 being liabilities, and 3 is equity. And equity is the money you put in to start your company, right? Say you're a solopreneur, right? Or you have a solo LLC or S corp, whatever the structure is. That's going to be the money you put into the company, and also the money you take out on draws. And let's say you have partners; their equity will be in there as well. Okay. This is also where you'll find your total accounts receivable, and which is what people owe you, and your accounts payable are also listed, and that's what you owe them. And basically, it is a snapshot of the value of your company at any time. So if any of you have, gone to the bank to borrow money or any of that good stuff, they always want to see a balance sheet because they really want to know what the value of your company is. And this is why. And this is also why we want to make sure we review it so that it is accurate every month. So going back to our example, our workbook here, this here is our balance sheet. Let's go over to the balance sheet. There we go. Let's make this a little bit bigger. And this here can be, just a total, or it can go by month as well. Sometimes what's kind of nice when you see it by month is you can kind of see peaks and valleys, where your cash is, or anything that's going on. But we want to see if loans are going down, things of that nature. And again, so here's all of our assets. We've got our bank accounts here. We have our assets. We have all of our prepaids, everything we've prepaid for the year should be in here. And then we move on to our fixed assets and any deposits or retainers. If you're renting, you want to put your deposit for your rent here. If you have a retainer for counsel, a lot of people need counsel for various reasons. There's retainer on files where we can track it, right? And then we have all of our liabilities, and our liabilities, here's our accounts payable that we were talking about in here, any credit cards that we have, any loans that we have, right? So this could be equipment that you have a loan on. It could be, operating, it could be anything, right? Those are all of your liabilities. And then down here at the bottom is your, if you are a corporation, it's your common stock, but it's your equity, okay? So yay there. So that's our balance sheet. And then we have our AR and our AP. And again, our accounts receivable, that is who owes you money, right? So if you are not an all cash or a cash only, pay as you go type practice, then this is where we're going to actually figure out who owes you money. And then there's also, who, you need to pay. Now, jumping back just a little bit, last week we talked about cash versus accrual accounting, right? And so, we want always to use accrual accounting. And the reason we want to do it, and I find a very practical reason for you to do it, is not only to reconcile those sales that we were talking about between your EHR and your books, but it's also to determine what you owe to people because maybe you're not going to pay everybody. I know very few people that get a bill and they immediately pay it, right? They might pay it 45 days later or whatever. And, if you can't track it, if you don't remember about it, then you're not, maybe you just don't realize it's going to impact your cash flow. Maybe you're not going to have enough money to pay it. So it's important to track these as well. And in our little workbook here, I have a separate sheet just for the accounts receivable. So here's all of our vendors. Oh, I think we've got this backwards. Okay, here's actually the AR. These are all of our clients that owe us money. And we can figure out exactly what that is doing. And then we have the other one here. We'll just change this back. We'll call this a technical difficulties, everybody. Sorry about that. All right. So this is what our AR looks like. Okay. And we can see, who's current, anybody who is 30 days late, 90 days, whatever. And this is a great tool to just review every month to say, hey, maybe we should check up on client, whoever, or patient, whoever, and, see how they're doing there, and if they need any assistance, or just a reminder that we have outstanding, money that's owed to us. And then we have our accounts payable. Same type of format, right? So, but here's all of our vendors. These are all the people we owe money to, right? So here's all the bills that are current. Maybe we had to push some out. Maybe some are late. Maybe there's a dispute. And it's just good to be able to review this every month. It doesn't have to be this long, drawn out conversation. Just, 10 minutes or so. Let's take a look, make sure we remember, what we owe and when we want to pay it and all that kind of good stuff. So, okay. So then we have one last report, which I always think is very important to cover, and that is your budget to actual. And so what this really is it's, you should be creating a budget, and it's about that time of year to do it. And this is why I wanted to start with talking about, this really unpopular topic, because once you create a budget, you can actually upload that into your books and then very quickly run a report that's literally called budget to actuals. Okay. And it's going to be basically your operating statement, and it's going to show a side by side of what you spent that month, and really what you earned that month against what you projected. Okay, and it's just a great tool to figure out if we need to maybe increase some sales, or maybe cut back on some spending that we'd already planned. And that's really what it is. So coming back to our little workbook here, we'll go to our actuals to budget. And again, it is let's make this a little bit bigger so it's easier for you to see. Trying to make this handier for everyone. Have to let me know how I'm doing. All right, so here we have we're going to take this as January, right? Okay, this is January, and this is our actual budget here. This is not February. All right, more technical difficulties. Holy cows amunga. Okay, so let's say here we've got our budget for the month, and then we have our actuals here. This is actually your profit and loss, and there's your budget that goes with it, and then we're showing a variance. Okay. And generally, when I've reviewed this with clients and gone over, the budget to actuals, we'll go down and we'll take a look at the variances. Anything over 10%, we just want to take a little bit of a closer look at and see exactly, what's going on, and see if it's something that is, requires immediate attention, or that maybe we should just think about for next month or next quarter or even next year, right? All right. So talking about the budget for a minute here, there are a few tips to creating this budget. One of the things is I would just run a current profit and loss statement or operating statement from your company for the previous year, or the current year, right? Current year, and take a look at, the revenue that you brought in for your services or for your products, and both, right? And any expenses. and really kind of review this one-time expense and one-time income, see if that really is just one time, right? And then determine what goals you need to earn the money that you want to earn, right? So maybe after you review this year's profit and loss, you're like, geez, I really want to be selling more of this particular product, right? It's not as labor intensive, it can be lucrative, and your patients want it and need it, but maybe you just aren't selling it the way that you really, to achieve those goals. Okay. So, I would always take a look at that. And then also take a look at your expenses. Now, it seems like every time I work on a budget with somebody, the first thing they want to do is say, well, we're going to just cut all these expenses. And expenses are expenses. You can really kind of, make your office a little bit crazy if you're suddenly just counting every single paperclip, right? If paperclips are really, the issue here, or is it that, we need to increase our revenue, right? And I always like to say, let's talk about how many more patients do we need to see? How many more products do we need to sell? And I know it sounds a little counterintuitive because, you're there to heal people, and I really get it, but to be able to continue to really practice your craft, you've got to make sure that people know about you and that they're coming in and that you are charging, a fair price that will, make your company move forward, and also service your customers. So these budget tips are very easy. And I think that if you just start with something, right, and get them up into your books and start reviewing this every single month, what you'll find is along the ways you can make little tweaks as you need to tweak it. And you'll start to really get a handle on, what actions you're taking in your office and how it's coming through on your financials. So just a quick recap then. We have, all of these different reports that we want to review. We want to do it monthly. So it's your profit and loss, your balance sheet, your budget to actuals, and your accounts receivable and your accounts payable. Our quick budget tips. We're going to start with that current profit and loss. We're going to review our one-time expenses and income and remove them. And then we're going to increase the expenses. Never saw them go backwards. But, some people are like, oh no, we're going to cut it all by 10%. Never seen it happen. Inflation alone will make sure it doesn't happen. And then you're going to determine what revenue that you need, any goals that you need for the next year. And then you're going to upload that up into your books. So those are my tips and tricks for today, a little bit longer than usual. And we're just going to close out with a few messages from our favorite CTO. This is Daisy Ford here, looking a little bit like, she wants a snack. I know. So her reminders for everybody is always be ready for compliments and snacks, because you guys are always doing a great job. And we always need a little snack to keep our energy going through the day. It could be healthy. Snacks don't have to be unhealthy. Don't forget to smile, because, people just love to be around smiling people, especially our little puppy and our CTO, our chief. Oh, look at that. I made her our technology officer. Do you believe that? Oh my God. But she's really our chief companion officer. So, and make sure you share your lunch, because that's really what this picture is all about. She just could not understand why I wasn't sharing my lunch. So, anyways, guys, we're going to wrap it up for today. We're going to see you next week. If you can like us on Facebook, we would love to connect with us and follow us and see what's going on. Always, like I said before, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I want you to have an awesome, awesome week. Next week, we are going to talk about, all the things that we're thankful for. So it's Thanksgiving week. I'll be hosting and just sharing, the things that I'm thankful for. And if you want to let me know some of the things that you're thankful for, I would love to include it here on our Running a Holistic Office. So thanks so much, everybody. Have an awesome week. Bye-bye.